Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. And good morning to those on the West Coast. This is CPSC's 6-month away e-filing webinar. We are pleased to be with you today to go over the latest and greatest for the e-filing program and to give you an idea of what's next and to encourage you all to participate before in our voluntary phase before mandatory implementation arrives on July 8th, 2026 for most regulated products and January 8th, 2027 for products coming out of foreign trade zones. Our agenda today, we will be giving a basic overview of e-filing. We will talk about certificates and product certification. We'll go over the types of message sets that you can expect to use during e-filing. We'll talk about harmonized tariff schedule code flagging, what to expect starting July 8th, 2026. We'll talk a little bit about the e-filing voluntary stage, an overview of our product registry, some technical updates, and some information about e-filing support services. You'll have 3 presenters today. You'll have me, Andrea Rucker-Yarosh. I supervise our targeting team in the Office of Import Surveillance here at the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission. You'll have John Blacher, who is a member of the targeting team, also at CPSC, and Brian Holsey. He is the e-filing development and support team lead with our excellent contracting team, who is putting together the product registry for all of you to use. So for those of you who might not know e-filing, you might be new. E-filing is very simple. It is an initiative where importers of regulated consumer products will electronically file certificates of compliance. Certificates of compliance have, of course, been required since 2008. So this is not anything new that you're being asked to provide. Rather, this is a new way, an easier way, an electronic way to file those data elements. As I mentioned, importers are going to be required to e-file certificates of compliance starting on July 8th, 2026 for all non-foreign trade zone merchandise. And some general highlights about e-filing. Data is stored electronically in a secure product registry if you choose to use the product registry. You have multiple options for electronically filing. There is a PowerPoint being shared. I apologize if folks can't see that. It is not visible.
That's weird. Hold on, let me see. Wow.
Thank you very much. Oh, we can. There are plenty of people who can see it. Okay, thank you. I apologize for those who can't see the presentation. I will say, yes, there will be a recording of the webinar after. So you will be able to see the PowerPoint and come back to this at any time when you revisit this later. And just to emphasize, all of this information is all available right now on cpsc.gov/efiling. So feel free to visit that website and take a look at all of our great resources. So continuing on, you have multiple options for electronically filing PGA message sets before a shipment arrives. And we'll go over that a little bit. That will either be either the full or the reference message set. It's a streamlined and efficient process and a standardized process for the trade community. And we believe that this will be easier compliance with CPSC certification requirements because you will have a portal that you can use to enter in the information should you use the product registry. I understand that folks are still having some challenges seeing the slide deck. I assure you that our our specialist will be working on making sure that that's available for everybody. And Cynthia, if you've got the opportunity to provide an update in the chat, if we've identified some kind of issue, that would be great. Thank you all. All right, so now we want to talk about what specifically a certificate is. There are two types of certificates, and these are, this is the information that needs to accompany a product to certify that it meets the standards associated with the requirements for that product. So that will be different depending on the product, and it is up to you, the importer, to know what requirements your product must meet before you e-file. The importer is the ultimate responsible party. So, children's product certificates. These are product certificates that certifies that a children's product complies with all applicable children's product safety regulations. These are tested at CPSC accredited laboratories and should be using what is called a CPC. Now, there is often misconception that children's products are the only products that require certification. That is not true. General certificates of conformity, or GCCs, are certificates that say that a general use product or a non-children's product complies with all applicable consumer product safety rules. They are still required. And both of these, again, have been in place since 2008, and we strongly encourage, if you are not familiar with these rules, to go to cpsc.gov and learn more about about your product and what it is that it needs to be certified to before you can bring it into the United States. And we'll get a little bit more into that on the next slide. Products must be certified if they are subject to a consumer product safety rule, ban, similar rule, standard, or regulation, and are being imported for consumption or warehousing or distributed in commerce. So that is a lot of consumer products, I think you're probably all thinking. And again, importers are responsible for certifying products and providing the product certificate data elements. It all comes down to the importer, most often the importer of record. You can read more about the definition of importer in our final rule, and that will have all of the information that you need to understand the roles of this process. Now, you might not be sure which CPSC regulations apply to your product. We know that consumer products are a very wide-ranging and very complex type of product area. So we have the regulatory robot tool to help you out with that on CPSC's website, cpsc.gov. This is a free online tool. It'll ask you a few questions about your product and then give you a customized report with the likely applicable requirements. And that's a great first step to starting to research that product. And I want to really emphasize the robot because the eFiling support team, some of whom you'll be hearing from on this very call, can help you with questions on how you file, how to use the product registry, and those types of technical questions. But that is not the inbox to help you with basic questions on product certification. If you are looking for information on product certification, we strongly encourage you to look at cpsc.gov, and we have a variety of websites, a variety of sites for this, including our children's product certificate site, rules requiring third-party testing and a children's product certificate, third-party testing guidance, general certificates of conformity, rules requiring a GCC, and general use product certification and testing. And that is just the tip of the iceberg. There is plenty of information online about that. And I just want to reiterate again, we here at the eFiling support team are more than happy to help you with eFiling. with the technical aspect of e-filing, with getting you prepared for July 8th. But these areas, the inbox will not be able to assist you with. So let's talk a little bit more about what the process of e-filing is. E-filing has two opportunities to provide your data. One is in a full, what's called partner government agency or PGA message set. This is where a participant will transfer all of the certificate data elements into a message set going through CBP's automated commercial environment system, or the ACE system. Some of you may have worked with other government agencies that use this message set for their requirements. All 7 product certificate data elements are provided in the message set, and you must do this every time. So it's the same information every time. So we think that participants who import a limited number of regulated consumer products will likely want to use this, or participants who do not repeatedly import the same product. Because again, using this method, even if the product is identical, even if you've imported it before, you have to re-enter that information every time. That may work for your business. We certainly have no preference on which one you use, but just for those smaller businesses or businesses that are repeatedly importing the same product, you may find that that's not the solution for you. So if it's not that, you might want to use the reference PGA message set. This allows participants to enter certificate data elements right into CPSC's secure product registry, and then input the certificate identifiers into CBP's ACE system. So what that practically means is that you've input all of the data beforehand. You've already completed all of that, and you just have one reference number that you need to file with Customs and Border Protection to make sure that we get your data. There are multiple ways to upload this data. You can do a manual upload within the user interface, or you can bulk upload either through a comma separated value file or an application programming interface. We have many opportunities to work directly with our development team to make sure that you can utilize the solution that's best for you. If you're working on API integration, for instance, and you need some help, that is not a problem. Our excellent developers would be more than happy to work with you. And that is a reason why participating in the voluntary stage is a great idea for anyone who might be interested, because you will have the opportunity to test the system as it is, to test your integrations, to test your uploading, and to make sure that what it is that you have in place is going to work for you. And since I've mentioned the voluntary stage, let's get a bit into that. The e-filing voluntary stage has been going on since 2024, and you may have heard of the beta pilot before that. And what we have in the voluntary stage participation is a risk-free way to engage with the system. We have up to 2,000 importers who can participate, and we have plenty of room. So if you're even thinking about participating, we strongly encourage it, because that helps you make sure that you know how to use the product registry. Make sure that you are feeling prepared with any edge cases you might have, because we have tried to make sure that we capture everything we can with the various business models, but we can't think of everything, right? We don't know what we don't know. So by participating and trying out your unique edge case, we can see right away if the system needs any enhancements, improvements to help make sure that you and others who use a similar model are going to be able to seamlessly head into July 8th with no issues. It's also completely risk-free. There are no penalties, and we have a wide range of resources to help you get started. The best place to start is cpsc.gov/efiling. You'll see our e-filing document library, and you can dig into those documents, ask us questions. We have videos that walk you step by step through how to use the product registry. And every importer that participates is an incredibly valuable partner because you can provide us with feedback to make this experience as smooth as possible. I want to emphasize that we don't just want you to make a business account in the product registry and then say you're good. We want you to put this through its paces. We want you to file message sets, all different kinds, right? We want you to file your reference message sets, your disclaims. We want you to use exemptions if you're utilizing that, just so we can make sure everything is working perfectly. So please consider participating. There's so much room left. You have plenty of time, and we have an excellent team that you can work with directly to make sure that your system is prepared for e-filing. Now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague John Blacher to go over an item that many of you have expressed interest in, which is the flagging of harmonized tariff schedule or HTS codes. John will go over that, and then we will continue with the presentation. John, take it away.
Thank you, Andrea. Good afternoon or morning, everybody. Again, HTS flagging, which is CPSC's indicators of which products are going to be expected to be contain products that need electronic certification electronic certificates. The list is being finalized, is under an internal review and should be out soon. But I want to go through generally the overall approach that certain HTS codes are going to be flagged in ACE, and a signal will be provided for those products that likely need a certificate to be e-filed. There's a lot of nuances here, which I want to go through. The posted list that we're going to be getting out is approximately a list of 600 HTS codes identified based off of CPSC internal expert review over this last 24 months. The HTS codes are included on the list if at least half of those products would normally require certification, or there are products in that HTS code where a high-risk product is considered to be imported under that code. This list is not all-encompassing. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of HTS codes for which less than 50% of the products under those HTS codes would apply and have an expected certificate filed under the e-filing effort. So products being imported under other HTS codes may still require certification. We want to emphasize that. For example, children's clothing where the age and size ranges are not clearly identified within the HTS classification may still require a CPC. There's a lot of HTS codes for which the clothing does not specify age. Those products within those HTS codes still will be expected to have a certificate. HTS classification changes are routinely made by agencies outside of CPSC. Those changes can cause HTS codes to be added or removed from the posted list as needed. So recognize that this list is going to change. Importers are ultimately responsible for knowing which imported products require product safety certificates, regardless of the HTS code's inclusion on this list. So remember all of these. Next slide, please. So what to expect starting July 8th? CPSC flagging will go live. Now, CPSC has entry-based messaging protocols using the one USG process on about 250 HTS codes. And we have been participating in the one USG process since 2020 based on the entry data. But starting July 8th, it's going to be extended to the 600 HTS codes, roughly 600 HTS codes, that CPSC will be using for PGA messaging flagging. CPSC will not reject these entries based upon electronic certificate data provisioning process. They will only receive warnings if there are problems or if the certificate does not accompany. The data will inform the targeting and examination process. So if there are problems with your filing, is an increased chance of an examination. E-filing and CPSC operations at the port will be further informed by the e-filed certificates. Importers are responsible for complying with this modernized approach and are considered the responsible party for e-filing purposes. How do we define an importer? On the final rule, an importer of record eligible to make entry or imported finished products under the Tariff Act of 1930, as amended by that section, who may be an owner, purchaser, or sorry about that voice break, or authorized customs broker. Those are considered to be an importer. Next slide, please. Again, we are actively participating in the One USG messaging process. A lot of importers already are seeing our messaging. So we are going to be extending the list of messages, and you'll see the overall process. It will feed relatively seamlessly into what is being done today. Any additional information that you might need on the One USG messaging process is out on the imports page of the cpsc.gov website. It is also referred to as two-way messaging, and this is how we communicate the status of an entry subject to CPSC review at entry. The common statuses are several common statuses that an importer through the broker can receive. Under review, that CPSC is reviewing the data, whether it's entry or entry and certificate. The shipment can move to the importer's premises during this time, but cannot be entered into commerce. This is not a hold. Hold intact. CPSC staff have held the shipment for examination. The shipment cannot move from the importer's premises. Importer's premises. A hard hold, a CBP hold, which would be intonated by CBP through CBP ACE processing, would not allow the shipment to leave the port. A may proceed. CPSC staff have cleared the shipment for agency purposes. This is CPSC's statement that the paperwork is fine. If there are multiple agencies, other agencies may still need to message you on the status concerning their review processes. It is not a final clearance statement from CBP. The One USG is where all relevant agencies have cleared the shipment. It can then proceed the product can then proceed into commerce. This is not a CPSC generated message. It is a CBP organized message after CBP has confirmed that all responsible agencies have provided their may proceeds and their review processes have been completed. Importers and brokers need to become familiar with the One USG messaging protocols before e-filing full implementation. This can be found on CBP's website. Participation in the voluntary phase can ease and has been shown to ease the transition into using the One USG messaging process if you've not done so before. We've had many participants who have actually participated successfully, have seen the messaging protocols, understand what's going on. Next page, please. Thank you. E-filings, the CPSC entry review process will use ongoing One USG notification process that's already in place. I want to reiterate that. Informational messages and data rejection messages will be sent during the CPSC review. Some changes you may notice when eFiling is fully implemented on July 8th. Instead of may proceeds, you may get an under review. It does not impact the flow of goods unless we determine that a hold or an examination is needed. While awaiting the may proceed, cargo can move to the importer's premises unless CBP has put a hold on it, obviously at the port. This under review does not constitute a delay in cargo movement. The under review process or the overall one USG coordination process is not, collecting that data does not delay movement. If a hold or examination is needed, trade will receive one of the following messages. An intensive exam, that comes from CBP. An intensive exam with documents required. Again, this is a CBP stop. It is done at the port. A hold intact or a hold intact with documents review. Both of these are where the importer must hold it at the importer's premises with the expectation that CPSC will contact them independent of CBP. If one of these are received, an investigator will reach out to get and to coordinate on required documentation and execute the exam. Next slide, please. I'd like to further presentation will be done by my coworker, Brian Halsey, and I hand it off to him.
Thank you, John. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here with us today. As John mentioned, my name is Brian Halsey. I'm the development and support team lead for eFiling. I'm going to give a quick high-level overview of the product registry here today, sort of where it's been, where it's going. A lot of you on the call probably have already engaged with the product registry in some form. We do have a lot of active users now. System's continuing to grow, and we're continuing to work on it, though. So with that said, I'll just kind of jump into this high level for maybe people who haven't experimented with it yet and aren't entirely sure what it is. I believe it was mentioned earlier in the presentation, the product registry is a secure web application where importers can store certificate of compliance data for use in reference PGA message sets. The registry uses an invitation-based system that enables importers to invite their various trade partners to access and collaborate on the certificate data that gets stored there. Currently, self-registration is available for importers. Importers can create business accounts by visiting CPSC's website and following a few very simple steps. And the product registry also makes an API available that allows third-party software integration, potentially enabling users to interact with the registry through their existing tools and workflows. As I mentioned, the registry is currently in active use during the voluntary phase. We have new companies and new users joining every week. We currently have more than 500 business accounts established and over 1,200 user accounts created. As Andrea mentioned earlier, though, there is still space in the voluntary phase. So if you're interested, we highly encourage you to get involved now. Don't wait until July 8th. It'll help make the transition a lot easier for folks. The eFiling product registry application is about to be on version 1.14. We plan to release that hopefully early next week. Since 1.1, a really wide variety of new features have been rolled out to expand the core functionality of the application and improve the overall user experience. I'd like to call out that many of the features that we've added were a direct result of user feedback. We had people getting into the system early, reaching out, letting us know, hey, this isn't working for me, or based on our specific use case, this X or Y feature would be really, really helpful. And we've done our best to roll those out as quickly as possible to try and really make the system work for the wide variety of users we have coming into it. Some of our new features include trade party editing grace period, which is actually one of the upcoming ones. It's been much requested for a very long time. This will be rolled out in 1.14. Trade parties, for people who aren't in the system, it's the manufacturers, laboratories, and points of contact that are required to constitute a valid certificate of compliance. Those get entered into business accounts so they can be easily reused. We had users point out, rightfully so, that if they make an error when entering it, they want to be able to fix that. So we're rolling out a period that allow people to kind of ensure that their data quality is up to snuff. PDF export of stored data. This is another very recent feature. You're putting these certificates of compliance in the system, and the reference message set just refers to them when you file it in ACE. But there are obviously still situations where you will want or need a paper copy of a certificate. So exporting PDFs helps fulfill that need. We've also recently unveiled the ability to certify during the process of bulk uploading certificates. This process used to be separate. You would need to go into the user interface of the application and manually certify if you were authorized to do that. We've now made it so that users who have the permission to certify that a certificate is complete and accurate can do that at the same time that they're putting the data in. That was another response to user feedback feature that we've recently enabled. And then we did also roll out privacy settings to restrict who can see the trade party information stored within a business account. So those stored trade parties, like lists of manufacturers and labs, initially those were just accessible across a business account, but we heard trade, chimed in and said that we don't want that in every case. We want to be able to control who sees this data. So we did put settings in place that enable you to control who gets to see which of the stored trade party data you have and which different product collection. So that's a nice little feature for everyone. Upcoming features, we are still working diligently to improve the product registry experience for everyone. Invitation management, as I mentioned in the beginning, the registry is an invitation-based system. So the importers own a business account. They're the ones that set it up. And then if they need to collaborate with all these various trade partners, labs, brokers, whoever it may be, the importer is responsible for extending invitations to those different trade partners to bring them into their business account to collaborate at different levels of permissions. Currently, once you send an invitation, you don't have visibility that you sent it. And so we're going to work on some features that allow you to see there's a pending invitation that's gone out. Maybe you need to cancel that invitation, stuff like that. So it'll give users greater control of managing who they're bringing in. If an invitation's already been sent out, they can have some insight into that fact. Import and export of trade parties. This is going to enable more efficient management of that trade party data again, which is a big component of the system. We've heard from some people work with hundreds of manufacturers, and they're like, I don't want to have to put in all this manufacturer data one at a time. So we're going to build out some tools that will enable you to upload a large amount of your, trade parties at one time. Collection management. Certificates are currently stored, if you're not familiar with the registry, they're stored in this entity called a product collection. So importers can make as many product collections as they need to divide up their data either by the trade partners they're working with or by the type of product it is. Really, it's a very flexible system that's meant to accommodate a wide variety of use cases that importers may have. So in addition to those tools, we want to make it so you can manage those collections more easily. So maybe there's a collection that was from 2 years ago and you no longer want to view it on your dashboard. Maybe you can archive or hide that collection from your default view. Maybe you need to be able to search across collections, things of that nature. New API endpoints are coming. This is relevant to any software developers who may be on the call. We're going to roll out API endpoints that are going to enable software developers who are integrating with our API to get a lot of the data that currently is only available within the registry application. So lists of citations and exclusions, things of that nature. If you're developing integrated software, we want you to have access to that data that's currently sort of stored for users of the user interface within the application. And then the last item, additional enhancements and bug fixes. These are always ongoing. We've done a lot of great work with it, but it is still a young system. There's little things here and there that we're always trying to clean up and improve for you. If you are in the system, if you're an active user right now and you notice anything, highly encourage you to reach out to our email inbox, eFilingSupport@cpsc.gov. We're always happy to hear feedback and answer any questions you might have. I believe I will, that's all I've got, so I will turn it back over to Andrea.
Thank you very much, Brian. I really appreciate your presentation. And thank you to John. I appreciate your presentation as well. We wanted to conclude the presenting portion of this webinar with a call to our e-filing support services. We have multiple channels to find the most current information on e-filing. You can visit the e-filing webpage, which is cpsc.gov/efiling, which I've mentioned multiple times so far. You can sign up for our e-filing mailing list. Our goal is to use that even more as we get closer and closer to July 8th implementation. You should check out our e-filing document library. That has all sorts of information. It has past presentations. It's got critical data updates. It's got template CSVs for you to use. It's got great information for you to help get you up and running with e-filing. And as I mentioned, we have CPSC product registry training videos. These are short videos that walk you through every step of using the product registry. If you need direct assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out to eFiling support at cpsc.gov. Many of the folks that you've just seen on the webinar are here and are able to respond via that inbox. We also have additional staff ready to help you. We are more than happy to take questions, feedback, and comments. And as Brian mentioned, that feedback often gets translated directly into improvements and changes to the product registry. So we very much encourage you to participate and to reach out. Now, I do see that there are a lot of hands raised at the moment. I just want to let everybody know that because of the volume of participants on this webinar, we took questions to respond to ahead of time, and we'll be going through those. So these are questions that we have received pretty frequently through our inbox. So we wanted to make sure that we covered these with you. If you have something that was not addressed today and that it pertains directly to e-filing, again, not product certification, not, how do I test my product, please reach out to eFiling support at cpsc.gov, and we would be more than happy to address your individual concern. Now, the first question that we'd like to go over and is often asked is, where can I find information on product certification? As I mentioned before, you really would want to start with the CPSC's regulatory robot. That's going to start putting you in the right direction. It will look at what type of product you have and then identify, based on the information that you've provided, what types of requirements you may need to address. And we also have a video education library on YouTube that's quite extensive and should be able to give you a lot of detail on various products. We also have a business guidance library that gives general business information on various sectors, various products. It's very thorough, and we strongly recommend you taking a look at that section for questions, starting with what you need to do to make sure that your product is certified. Now, if you have questions pertaining directly to testing and certification, we have testing and certification resources on CPSC's webpage. So go to cpsc.gov and look for the testing and certification page. We also have individual pages for children's product certificates, the rules required by children's product certificates, and third-party testing guidance. And then, as I mentioned before, we also have that same level of detail for general certificates of conformity, the rules, and certification and testing pages. So we strongly recommend that you check out our existing resources. They will help you in your certification journey as you prepare for July 8th. We often hear, where can we find more information on the requirements for full and reference PGA message sets? We recommend that you start with the eFiling Quick Start Guide, which is in our eFiling document library, so cpsc.gov/eFiling. That gives more detailed information on eFiling requirements for both the full and the reference PGA message sets. And then if you're looking for more information on data requirements that are specific to the CBP ACE transmission process, either if you're a broker or you're a self-filer, you should take a look at the eFiling implementation guide, otherwise known as the CATER, that is also on our webpage. That is going to be significantly more technical. It's going to get right down into each line of data that you need to submit, but it will really help as you're building out, especially if you're building out for the full message set. Sometimes brokers ask us, do brokers need to notify CPSC in any way before transmitting full or reference PGA message sets? The answer is no. Brokers do not need to notify CPSC before transmitting either the full or the reference PGA message set. So if you're a broker and your client is ready to transmit message sets and they are enrolled in the voluntary stage, we encourage you to do so. There's nothing else you need to do. You should just send the message and we'll test it out for you. And for those brokers who are currently on the line, I just want to emphasize that HTS flagging is not live. And as John mentioned in his presentation, it will be live on July 8th. We hope to get the HTS codes out very soon so you can start thinking about what will be flagged. But again, just because it's not flagged in ACE does not mean that a certificate is not required. Importers must make sure that they are focused on the product requirements and that they know their product requirements, because just because a flag isn't there doesn't mean it doesn't require a certificate. Sometimes we hear the question, what do I do after a certificate is certified in the product registry and I'm ready to transmit a reference PGA message set? So that's that next step that I was talking about, that we often have people creating business accounts and getting their information into the product registry, but we don't quite see the message set being transmitted. So what importers should do is provide their broker with the certificate identifiers. So that's certificate ID, product ID, and version ID from the product registry to add to their reference PGA message set. This can be done either by manually collecting the certificate identifiers and sending them to your broker outside of the product registry, or you can invite your broker as a user to your product collection, and our videos go into how to do that. So plenty of ways to make sure that you can get to that next step and file your message set. What is a disclaimer PGA message set, and when should people use this? So a disclaimer PGA message set is used when no certificate is required. This might happen if, say, an HTS code is broader and there are products in there that are likely to contain, or that may contain products in there that may require certificates, and products in there that don't require certificates. So you might want to file a disclaimer to tell us, yes, I'm filing with this HTS code, but I don't have anything that CPSC regulates. So there are a few times when you would want to use this. So outside of the CPSC jurisdiction, as I mentioned, or within jurisdiction, but not necessarily regulated by CBP. So this is or CPSC, which, as I mentioned, and as others have mentioned, this is only for regulated products. So those that are have a mandatory standard attached to them. The third disclaimer might be used when there is enforcement discretion that's been directed by the commission. If you have a product in that lane, you very likely know what it is, and we have probably talked about it before. If you're not sure, then please reach out and we can help you with that. However, please note that CPSC is not requiring disclaimer message sets. Upon full implementation of eFiling, you will only be required to eFile for any product that is subject to a CPSC standard or rule, ban, standard, or regulation. And as John mentioned, we will be giving warns at the time of entry filing. We will not be rejecting shipments. So with that said, we encourage you to file a disclaimer PGA message set if you fall into one of these categories, because it will help us to make sure that we know what your shipment is and to not necessarily focus on it if we are looking for potential violations. there should be no violation in your shipment because it is not an applicable standard, or it doesn't apply to a standard. And therefore, telling us that via disclaimer will help us focus on those shipments that potentially are violating CPSC regulations and harming consumers. So we anticipate that if you file a disclaimer message set, you are likely to see benefits in reduced risk score and reduced examinations. To transmit a disclaimer PGA message set, you can find data requirements to do so in the eFiling implementation guide, so that CATER that I mentioned. Disclaim data is not entered into or managed by the product registry. So that's directly submitted through CBP's ACE system. Now, this might seem like a simple question. I know we've gone over it a few times, but I want to make sure that we hit home on it. What products should be e-filed? A certificate of compliance, either a GCC or a CPC, is required for any consumer product that is subject to a CPSC rule, ban, standard, or regulation. All certificates of compliance will be required to be e-filed upon full implementation on July 8th, 2026, and January 8th, 2027 for imported consumer products entered through a foreign trade zone. So if you're not using a foreign trade zone, July 8th, if you have a consumer product that is subject to a CPSC rule, ban, standard, or regulation, you will be e-filing. Who is responsible for e-filing? It's another item that John went over. Importers are ultimately responsible for product certification and e-filing. We at CPSC encourage importers and their trade parties to collaborate to ensure compliant and successful e-filing. All of these groups working together is what makes e-filing successful. We know that trade is very complex, that there are a lot of stakeholders, and we just encourage you to work closely with your supply chains and work together to ensure that you have all of the necessary information and are e-filing effectively. We sometimes are asked if it's acceptable to file only a full PGA message set instead of using the product registry, and thereby using reference PGA message sets. That's absolutely fine. CPSC has no preference for which system you go with. That all comes down to your business need, your business model, and what makes the most sense for you. We are providing the product registry so that there is an easier and faster way for people to file if they so choose. And perhaps that doesn't make sense for everybody, but it is important to note that usually a reference PGA message set is going to be most beneficial for importers that have a larger volume of the same product over and over again. If you're just importing one product, it's all been tested together. The product registry, as I mentioned, as Brian mentioned, is completely secure and allows you to store your data in a central repository that can be used when you need it on demand. And as we've all mentioned, we are continuing to enhance this system. So the more you use it, the more you give us feedback on it, the better we can make the system ahead of July 8th. We unfortunately cannot make changes to the CBP ACE system. So do know that before you're going in, that if you are using a full reference set or a full message set and you run into issues, we are always happy to help you, but on the technical side, dealing with ACE, CPSC will not be able to assist. We have also received questions asking, can a representative register on behalf of multiple small client companies? We get this one a lot. So if you are a parent company importing on behalf of sub-brands, you can register if you share an importer record number. But each importer needs to be responsible for certifying their own certificates. The legal responsibility is on the importer. So an importer could add you as a user to a business account, to enter data, and you could certify on their behalf. However, it is going to be a distinct difference of business accounts if you have a separate IOR number and your sub-brand has a separate IOR number. So it's going to vary depending on what your business model looks like. And again, this is why the voluntary stage is so very important, because everybody's business is different and we recognize that and we want to get it right for you and your businesses. And finally, if a shipment includes the same product but with different production dates, such as 60% of a product was produced, say, in March 2025, and then 40% of the product was produced in June 2025, which manufacture date should be filled in? So in this scenario, you'd want to list March 2025 as the manufacture date for all products manufactured in that given batch. If the products manufactured in June 2025 are part of the same continuous manufacturing batch, then you'd list March 2025 as the manufacture date for the product certificate. Ultimately, the certificate must match the products from the batch. When any consecutive batches are tested, either by choice or to recertify, then a new certificate is required and the manufacture date must be updated. CPSC does not dictate how long a batch run should be, so a manufacturer could have a batch run for up to a year if they do continuous manufacturing. In this case, the start date listed on the certificate in month-year format would be the correct date to use. I wanted to go over that because it's, we get kind of niche questions about the dates and production runs quite frequently, and so we just really like to highlight those kinds of questions. And we have plenty of frequently asked questions on our website, cpsc.gov/efiling, that you can take a look at and that we encourage you to take a look at. And if you think of a new question, feel free to reach out. We always are eager to jump into these questions with you. We know that this is a complicated process. We know that this is a new process, and we are here to help. And we are looking forward to working with you all to make e-filing on July 8th as successful as it can be. I want to thank my presenters, John and Brian, and really to thank you all for attending and for giving your interest in e-filing. We look forward to working with each and every one of you and look forward to July when we can say that this is officially mandatory and officially live and hopefully rolling out as smoothly as possible. Thank you again. Have a wonderful day. And that concludes the webinar.